Do you want to learn quickly how to keep the habits that you set for yourself? I know I do. Oftentimes I can easily come up with the habit and the idea for the habit, but actually following through can be very challenging. Stick around on this video where I share 4 tips in order to keep your habits and one bonus tip at the end on how to bounce back if and when you do fall off the wagon and potentially fail on one habit. Stick around. Hey there, it's Michael Montgomery with Rev Real Estate School, and today we are jumping into 4 rules for keeping a habit as a real estate agent. Now, if you have not read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, these 4 rules come directly from his book, and it is an amazing read. In his book, what James Clear does is he looks at habits, but he also looks at how to keep the habit. And it's not just about knowing about the habit, it's not knowing that we have to do the habit, but it's how we go about keeping it. He says right off the bat, and it's a quote from Archelaus, which I'm butchering the name, and he is an ancient philosopher that says, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And this is such a genius line, and being that it was said thousands of years ago makes it even that much more permanent. So let's jump into the 4 rules and stick around at the end. We are going to go through one quick tip if you do fall off the wagon and need to get back on. Number 1, James Clear's first rule is make it obvious. So we may have heard this one before, right? If you are going to the gym, you should have to trip over your sneakers. So that way that when you wake up in the morning, they're right in front of you and it's so obvious that it actually takes more work to not go about and do the habit. For real estate, we can think about prospecting. So let's use prospecting as an example, the habit of prospecting. How can we make this easy on ourselves? Well, I'd recommend the night before, instead of when you're waking up and starting to do your prospecting in the morning, instead of having to go into your CRM and pull different names, you're already prepared night before. Write down the list of names and the list of people you are going to reach out to during that prospecting time. That takes the thinking out of it and it makes it easy. Number 2, make it attractive. This is a powerful rule. And this comes from the whole concept that oftentimes positive habits are a little bit more challenging in the moment, but long term they have their benefit. Whereas potentially negative habits might be a little bit more enjoyable at that time. Think Netflix, think junk food, think skipping workouts, but they're more of a detriment over time. So what James Clear is saying here is when we are forming these new habits, which are oftentimes a little bit more challenging in the moment, we have to find a way to make it attractive to us. So what he recommends here is focusing on the long term. Don't think about how during that prospecting time it's going to be a challenge and a drag. Think about how 1 to 5 years down the road, how much that is going to have a positive impact on your business. So rule number 2, make it attractive. Moving right along to rule number 3. Rule number 3 is make it easy. Now this is different than make it obvious, which was rule number 1. Make it easy is about just finding the first step and doing that. And that causes this chain reaction of getting to the habit. Let me explain. In James Clear's book, he talks about flossing. He also talks about the gym, but let's talk about flossing. He says you don't necessarily have to worry about flossing all of your teeth. When you're first starting out and you're starting to form this habit, instead focus on flossing 1 tooth. Naturally, we're not just going to go in and floss 1 tooth. If we've already started that process, chances are we are going to finish. But he says instead of thinking about flossing all your teeth, think about just flossing 1 tooth. Or in the example of the gym, don't focus as much on going and how long it's going to take and the big long workout, sweating, hard work. Instead, think about going to the gym and telling yourself, hey, you know what, I'm just going to put on my sneakers and I'm going to go for a 5-minute run. So any of us can break our habits down to individual steps, and he calls this the 2-minute rule. He says that habits can be formed in 2 minutes or less based on us just taking that first step. and making it easy on ourselves. Moving right along, step number 4, make it satisfying. So this dovetails quite nicely with number 2, which is make it attractive. So we learned in rule 2 that we have these human tendencies, and the fact that some of our negative habits have this instant gratification and maybe our positive habits require a little bit more long-term effort in order to see that benefit. Although it's a great benefit and it's huge, it takes some time. When we're into rule number 4, which is make it satisfying, he's saying, okay, I understand that. How can we go about making some level of gratification from just finishing that task? The example he brings up is Jerry Seinfeld, and how when he would go about writing a joke, he would have a goal for himself, a habit of writing one joke a day. And the way that he made it satisfying for himself was he would draw an X on the calendar through every single day that he wrote a joke. Now, looking at his calendar, he would see this string of X's. And what was satisfying to him was not seeing a break in the X's. And we can do the same thing with prospecting. If we set out to prospect 5 times a week, then we can see this X's, we can see this group of X's, and there's a number of different apps out there. There is Habit Bowl, which I'm currently using, and we're going to link up a few other habit apps in the description below, as well as a guide in the description below, so you can take this and run with it. So rule number 4 is make it satisfying, and go ahead and use the Jerry Seinfeld trick of just having this chain of X's through the days that you have been successful. Now, the bonus. The bonus is what happens if we do fall off the wagon and we do stumble a little bit. And I don't want to use the word fail, because we will all have these times where we're going to miss a workout, where we're going to say we're going to do something and we don't end up doing it. Potentially that is prospecting during our golden hour time. Now, if that happens, it's not about coming down on ourselves and being really hard on ourselves. Instead, it's about picking ourselves up and making sure it doesn't happen twice. So James Clear's big rule here is whatever you do, if you do stumble a little bit, just don't let it happen 2 days in a row. So if you stumble and miss one day of prospecting, make sure you jump right back on and you are ready to go twice as strong the next day. And then you continue on this process and you grow from there. Thank you very much for watching this video. If it was of value, consider subscribing. We will link up the cheat sheet as well as the full article about habits in the description below. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next video.